What's up, cats? I'm here with Minaie and Evan Francis. We're about to get real. We're about to break shit down. We're fitting to get busy, so stay tuned.
Lose the face lock.
Okay. Cool. Indulge me in a useful fiction, take one. One, two, three, four, five, six.
My friend Pat Gordy, who I met in Truckee, California. He lived there for a little stint. Great, killing drummer, awesome dude. Anyways, he emailed me Evan's first record. That was your first record. I didn't even actually realize it was Evan, like your project, until today. And you probably sent it to me like 4 or 5 years ago, right? Is that when you made it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the 5th year is when people normally realize that.
Yeah. And I just rocked it. I remember rocking that on tour for like 3 years straight.
Dude, that makes me so happy to hear that.
Yeah. It was on my phone, it was on my iPod, it was on my computer. Yeah.
I first learned about you were playing from Tigran's record.
Okay, cool.
Because Pat told me, Pat's like the guy.
He's the guy, yeah.
Yeah, he was like, dude, you gotta check out this record.
Yeah.
So I did.
Cool.
In San Francisco, you can play a lot of gigs. You get a lot of ego kind of massaging. I do, at least.
Oh,
Moving here, I just kind of like left all my work. I mean, I have had not a lot of work since I got here. But I've had like done a lot of sessions, which is like the morale is like way higher.
Oh, no kidding. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because I'm playing music that makes me happy instead of music that makes me money or makes me climb whatever ladder there might be.
I have this sort of, I don't know, like El Dorado type of view of the West Coast, as far as just like everybody's chill and nobody's got an attitude, and
well, the
everybody
West Coast
does everything
all
for the
about
right reasons.
El Dorado. I'm sorry. What do you mean by El Dorado? The El Dorado.
I might not even have gotten that right, but I think it's from Candid. By who the fuck wrote Candid?
David Foster Wallace?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, on the West Coast, you're playing, a lot more gigs, like a ton of gigs, and you have room to breathe and you have room to grow, and then so in that way it's beneficial not coming out here because you're getting, the best experience is playing, and there you're going to do a lot more playing, when you're 18
right.
than you are if you're 18 in New York City. You're not going to do as much playing, so that's an important way to grow. Like for instance that Spaceheater record, all the stuff you're doing in San Francisco, you might not have done that here. And I think it's easy, in New York especially. I don't know if this sounds too judgmental, but like a lot of younger players, they come out here and they just academically try to sound like a lot of the guys that are already here. But in somewhere else, not necessarily the West Coast.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
We don't really have that influence of like, oh, that's the guy. We just have records and, we see whoever's touring and stuff like that. But there's not like this great sort of almost like, conforming pressure to sound a certain way.
Yeah.
And then so in that aspect, I think maybe that's why folks sound differently. Not saying that people that come to school are in New York at a younger age, but there's also a other thing too, is like being here when you're really young. By the time, let's say by the time you moved here, by the time I moved here, like if we had moved here when we were 18, we'd already be in the scene. You know what I mean? So it's kind of a give or take situation when I think about that. I don't know if that answers your question or opens up another can of worms.
My perspective on that, as a guy who moved here, like basically right out of undergrad,
Right.
Without very much stuff together, it was extraordinarily frustrating for me, because I feel like you only really get 1 or 2 shots to make those first impressions, and everybody's eyes are on you when you're like 18 to 24, and then at that period of my life, like I didn't have any playing experience. And then like once that window passes, you can only sort of move to New York once.
What I was going to say about the West Coast thing is just the really simple fact that the Bay Area has, in my opinion, like I grew up in LA and I moved to the Bay Area, and the big difference of like Bay Area is like it has this kind of zany, almost like random quality to some of the music that comes out of it, and I feel like a lot of that has made its way into the New York sound.
Yeah.
Or what? I don't know. There's not one New York sound into like. I don't know, certain bands that are really prominent now, I think, make use of that. But when I moved there, I was lucky. I played in this really like well-known bass player named Marcus Shelby. He's a band leader. He has like young people in his band always.
Yeah, that's great.
And right when I moved there, I got in a band with Ambrose and Dana and this guy Howard Wiley, and like and Daryl Green. We were all in the band at the same time. So like I got like hit with that like Bay Area. I don't want to say goofiness, but like the Bay Area kind of like different approach. I was like, wow, this is different than LA.
They don't like it, and I keep getting hired by people who are like, no, this isn't what I want, no, this isn't what I want. Well, fuck it. I'm going to do it for free for somebody that I'm really into and invested in, and they can take it or leave it. Otherwise, like, I'm not going to do it at all. I don't know. That's just like a freestanding rant, like right out in the middle of it.
It's always good to have
You should start the webisode with that.
Yeah, exactly.
And then move on to the music.
Great exercise for me to not make money off music for a while, because it makes me ask the question, like, what do I really want to do? Because I haven't asked that question. I think you kind of, if you like play gigs for long enough, you can like forget the answer to that question.
Yes.
Like, what do I want to do? Like, wow, I haven't even thought about that in 20 years.
Yeah.
You know? So I feel like I'm salvaging that part of myself.
Yeah.
A record isn't necessarily, some people think of when you're making a record, it's like a performance. But the fact of the matter is you can do anything. So why not do more sometimes? I'm not saying it's always appropriate, but a lot of people that come to me for that sort of thing, they're like, okay, we want something different, more ear candy, I suppose, or something like that. And in which case it's like writing, you know? Like you're sitting there and you're figuring out what effects you use and how to manipulate sounds and, you know, what kind of sonic imagery, you know, it's like painting.
And you've kind of, like, what I hear you saying too is that because of the word of mouth and as your work gets more known, you have people seeking you out because of what you do.
Yeah, yeah.
And that must be amazing.
It's cool, yeah. I feel like even more so than bass playing, like, you know, a lot of times when people hire you as a bass player, you know, hopefully in the next 20 years this will be changed, but, you know, a lot of times people are like, oh, we need a bass player, we like you, can you do it? And it's not all the time where people are like, man, we want you to do this.
I think that is going to change.
Yeah, which happens, you know, a lot, but even more so than that, this is something that's a lot more than just one gig or something like that. It's someone's entire record, so that people are really more specific about who they want to do those things. You know.
Yeah, I'd be a total bum if it wasn't for music, and not anything about bums, but you know what I mean. Like, it makes me feel good and non-violent.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense? You know?
No, definitely.
I love like practicing. It just makes it feel good. You know, I'm building, using my muscles, and I don't know, using my mind.
Exactly.
Even if I didn't lead to anything, it would still like a good way to live, I think.
Respect.
This is some allergy shit right here.
Yeah.
Respect.